sont vos qualités principales?
Je me bonifie avec le temps.
Vous aimez les climats très tendus?
La vérité chez toi et remets ta robe de tata. Tous les plus grands airs d'opéra ont des relents.
A feast of French cinema. Hello and welcome to our film show this week, where critic Lisa Nesselson joins us in the studio for the first time in 15 months. It's really nice to see that you don't actually live inside a computer, Lisa. Welcome.
I've always wanted to say this. It's great to be back.
Indeed it is. It's great to have you. Well, let's start with a film that deals with our tricky transition to a 21st century workplace. It's called French Tech. Tell us more.
Well, this contemporary deadpan comedy is a hoot. I don't always like the films Bruno makes. This is at least his 9th feature, I think. But he's hit upon a marvelous role for his real-life brother, Denis, who is a member of the Comédie Française theater troupe, and he plays Alexander, who needs to prove to his wife, who's away for 2 months on a top-secret mission, that he's responsible enough to care for their offspring. So he accepts a job at a seriously wacky French startup called The Box, where he has no idea which way is up. He's tense from day one, and that's because the firm has a strict rule. Employees can't be parents. They can't have kids. And when he says he's not a dad, he's lying. And it turns out to be surprisingly hard to completely conceal your young children. The two Alfreds of the original title refers to two stuffed monkeys who are part of the whimsy constantly afoot. The head of the company that employs Alexander is played by a real-life magician. And that is a smart idea because there's a touch of Mesmer in his blue eyes and a touch of Jack Nicholson in The Shining in his brow. Alexander meets a laid-back sort of guardian angel played by his brother, Bruno, the director, who agrees to bail him out as a babysitter and all-around excuse provider in exchange for a place to crash. And completing the scene is Alexander's jargon-spouting, high-strung boss, played by Sandrine Kiberlin.
Sounds surreal. Well, let's hear it from the director, Bruno Podalides, and we'll see a clip of the film.
It's oppressive. You can be disqualified immediately if you use a French word instead of an English one. I think you can suffer at work simply because of language.
Ici, à The Box, on fédère, on dispatch, on fixe des OP. D'ailleurs, j'ajoute souvent OP mesurable par simple reacting process. Bonjour à tous. Bonjour. Ici, c'est no child. T'as pas d'enfant en bas âge, hein? Parce qu'ici, quand on a des enfants, on se tire de la boîte. C'est la philosophie de la maison.
On a une conf call dans 12 minutes.
Petit bémol, j'ai dû omettre de dire que j'avais des enfants.
Les Little Candies. Alexandre. Là, tu es trop près, parce qu'actuellement, je ne vois que ton nez.
Il se fout de ma gueule, Alexandre.
The French relationship to the workplace has really been changing over the past few decades, and especially during the pandemic, although this film was completed before COVID and had been slated to premiere in Cannes, in fact, a year ago, May, before that fest was canceled. 20 years ago, true story, I was told of government work inspectors who checked employee laptops in the company parking lot on Friday when they left, and again on Monday morning when they returned to make sure no work had been done during the weekend. I have always admired the now blurring line the French draw between life and work, and that's a big part of the comedy in this film, French Tech.
Indeed, it does hit home on certain aspects. Well, next, this is a debut film written by Suzanne Lindon when she was just 15 years old, and she's directing and starring in it now at age 20. The story centres on a 16-year-old Parisian girl who strikes up an ambiguous friendship with a man in his 30s. And Lindon's parents are actually famous, aren't they? It's Sandrine Kiberlin, who we've just seen in French Tech, and Vincent Lindon, who's very well known here in France. So obviously a lot of people are going to be asking, does talent run in the family?
Apparently, on the basis of this is an interesting topic treated with artsy flourishes and pleasing maturity, I'd say. The French title, 16 Printemps, translates as 16 Springtimes. Lindon plays Suzanne, a high school student with loving, very laid-back parents who has friends at school but is ready for something, shall we say, more. Her route to and from school passes a theater where she and an actor, Raphael, catch each other's eye. They take an interest in getting to know each other. There's no hand-wringing or fear, and, why should there be? It's a very French movie, which in this case means there's no moralizing. Is what Suzanne feels the stirrings of romance or just a stimulating glimpse of how adults tend to differ from teenagers?
Okay, well, let's take a look at Spring Blossom.
Un chemisier blanc effronté
So Suzanne Lindon conceived everything about this script, about the story, and it's her character who takes the initiative, almost stalking a man twice her age. Nevertheless, some people would say that this relationship is a bit inappropriate.
I know, I'm not a fan of the humorless rigidity with which age gaps in coupledom are currently being treated, especially in the English-speaking world, as in a younger woman and an older man taken with each other is always a terrible idea, always damaging, always wrong. Suzanne initiates the relationship, as you said, and her stirrings of first love feel genuine. There are 2 posters that are kind of telling on her bedroom wall, one for Bambi and one for Maurice Piala's A Nos Amours, in which actress Sandrine Bonnaire got her start depicting a sexually active 15-year-old. Arnaud Valois, who played a central role in Beats Per Minute, is suitably dreamy, and Lando puts herself on the line to tell the story she wants to tell, something she accomplishes in just 73 minutes, which feels just right for a story of 2 people who connect because both are bored with their status quo.
Okay, sounds interesting. Now, to the world's most important film festival dedicated entirely to animation. That's currently underway in the French resort town of Annecy. This year is the 60th edition. Tell us more about that one.
Well, lots of animation is directed at kids, but anybody who thinks animation is just for kids should be crushed by a sudden falling object and spring back unhurt, only to smash into a pane of glass, and recover instantly, only to be run over by a stampeding buffalo.
Sounds familiar.
In other words, anything you can imagine can pretty much come to life in animated form. When Annecy began trading off every 2 years with Czechoslovakia until 1998, animation meant entirely analog effects, either drawing each frame by hand or painstakingly moving an inanimate object one frame at a time, taking a picture to create the illusion of movement. Computers have eliminated most of that drudge work, but good animation still requires, and always will, imagination, timing, showmanship. There are 11 feature films from all over the world in competition in Annecy this year, and the festival is billing itself as the first major post-pandemic such event. I hope COVID-19 and all its enterprising variants got that memo. Animation is not only fun to watch, it's big, big business. And Annecy hosts the MIFA Animation Market in tandem with the artistic side of the event. Unifrance, which keeps track here in France of how well French films do beyond French borders, just released a report a few days ago about the export careers of French animated films. 74.4 million tickets were sold worldwide between 1995 and 2019. 8 million of those were sold in China, and the U.S. is close behind with 7.2 million tickets.
Okay, so like you say, it's a huge industry. Well, looking at the programme this year, what are you most looking forward to?
I like the pitch for a film called America, in which a chainsaw-wielding George Washington and his beer-drinking pal Sam Adams set out to give the British a hard time. I'm curious about the raccoons in survival tale Far From the Tree, a brand new short from Disney animators. Annecy showcases works in progress. Takes a long time to make an animated film. And Unicorn Wars has an interesting ring to it. It's by Spanish comic book artist and animator Alberto Vasquez, and evidently it's set up against the backdrop of a brutal war between teddy bears and unicorns.
Seems normal.
Sibling teddy bears are sent to a military camp for special training, but their mission spins out of control. Of course it does. I'd expect nothing less. And there's a spotlight on African animation with 21 projects from across the continent featured in the market. South African animator William Kentridge's masterclass is a guaranteed highlight.
Finally, our film, a little bit more normal now, featuring real-life humans, is Cinquième Set in its French title. It would have been released this past December had cinemas not been shut due to the pandemic. But tennis does suggest warmer weather, which is well-timed since we've just had the French Open. Tell us more about this film.
Well, Americans like winners, and the French like winners too, but they really, really like underdogs. This is the story of a professional tennis player who suffered a mishap on his way to the winner's circle. He's now in his late 30s. His body is much, much the worse for wear, but his determination is intact. He believes he has it in him to make a high-level competitive comeback and decides at 37 to aim for a spot in the French Open. Don't cue the theme song from Rocky just yet. This is a carefully constructed, down-to-earth film. The protagonist, whose name is Thomas Edison, is played by versatile Alex Lutz, a gifted comedian comedian who, like many funny entertainers, has a knack for drama. Think Robin Williams, Steve Martin, Will Ferrell, Emma Thompson. He's absolutely convincing as a working stiff, emphasis on stiff, whose job is to play tennis. This tale is part realistic details, how to pack your gear, for example, and part pop psychology. His mother, played by Kristen Scott Thomas, has a passive-aggressive attitude toward her son's capacity for excellence. That would be an obstacle for any son in any field. He has a loving wife, herself formerly a high-performance athlete, who wants to get a degree in order to start the next phase of their lives, one not completely wrapped up in sports. I like this a lot. It's touching, educational, suspenseful, well-acted, well-shot. You don't have to care about tennis to care about this character. And I have no idea why the Internet Movie Database decided to list under the heading plot point, just 3 words, male rear nudity. I would have said hard work against the odds or professional athletics, but we have male rear nudity.
So you can go to see it for any one of those reasons. Thank you very much for the tip, Lisa. We'll leave you with a glimpse of Alex Lutz giving it his all on the clay. Remember, you can get more movie news on our website. We're on social media too. There's more news coming up on France 24 just after this.
C'est quoi ta stratégie contre tout ça?
Être plus fort mentalement.
Très dur pour Thomas Edison.
Je sais ce que j'ai à faire, c'est pas fini, c'est pas fini. Thomas Edison, à 37 ans, il sait qu'il a pas fini.